This chapter is dedicated to one of the theories of international trade. This is the Ricardian Model, where the main feature is the thing that we are going to have just one production factor, that is going to be labor, and also it's going to be important the technology, because it's going to make that labor is going to be different in terms of production given the technology. Also, we are going to talk about the opportunity cost. That is going to be one of our key elements in this model, which is connected with one function, which is the production possibility frontiers, like the one that we are going to see later on. So this is like just a basic scheme. Also, it's going to be really important the term of comparative advantage. That is going to be the channel through countries are going to trade, because we are going to observe that one economy is going to be a comparative advantage in the production of one good, while other economy is going to have the comparative advantage in the production of a different good. So that is going to be the reason of international trade. So we are going to start with a closed economy, then we are going to open the economy, and then given this we are going to see why it's important or why economies decided to trade. Okay, so that is going to be sort of the end of this chapter. This is one of the theory of the model of international trade. Along this course we are going to see different models. All of them are going to be focused in one specific aspect. Here is going to be technology. We can say that there are two main reasons for international trade. One of them is difference, while the other is the use of economic scales. Differences in which terms? Well, it can be any. It can be in terms of different level of physical capital, natural resource, climate, or technology. That is going to be our case here. So we are going to focus in the different level of technology, or better said, in the different efficiency that labor is going to have given the technology of its economy. So technology is going to be here the main channel to international trade. As I said, this is going to be for the old theory of international trade. This is like more present, is the neutral theory, okay, or new economic geography also use that. This is based in the fact that sometimes as bigger is one specific industry, or better say a firm, that production is going to be more efficient. And that is going to be the reason for international trade. When you open your market, now you have more consumers. And if you are able to produce in a cheaper way, as higher is the volume of the production in your firm, that means that it's really interesting, open the market, have more consumers, produce in a big scale, and then reduce average costs. So that means the production of each unit is going to be in a lower cost, as higher is the volume of the production. So that's why it's interesting in international trade, because as producer you are going to have a lower cost per unit, and as a consumer you are going to enjoy cheaper prices, okay, lower prices. So here is based on differences across country. You can think a country with many workers also is one way, versus another economy with more machines, that is capital. And then they are going to trade because for the production of one specific thing you need labor, while for others it's just better using machines for, as I say, a specific thing. So here we are going to have just one production factor, labor, but that labor is going to have a different technology. And that is going to be the reason for international trade. One key concept is going to be the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means the cost of doing something. Here imagine that you are an economy with a limited amount of resources. In this case, your only resource is labor, okay? It's your only production factor. The problem of the limitation of something is the fact that if you use that labor in the production of one specific good, you are not able to produce the other goods. So opportunity cost is not just a direct cost, that it is, but also is the fact that if you use your resources in one thing, that means you are not going to use them in the production of other things. It's like your time also has an opportunity cost. It's like you are now here watching this video instead of working. So your cost is not just the electricity that you are using to see this, or other thing that you can think about it in terms of economic cost, but also is the opportunity cost, because with this time you could use this time to make money. So that is the opportunity cost also of being there watching me. So here this is going to be a really important concept, the opportunity cost, because we are going to have that limited amount of workers, and as far as we start to produce more of one thing, that is going to mean we are going to produce less of the other things. In fact, we are going to talk about only about two goods. So if we start to produce more and more of one of the good, that is going to involve a lower production of the other. Okay, so this economic concept is going to be really important in this chapter and in the coming chapter, where we are going to talk about international trade. The other concept that is really interesting is the production possibility frontiers. It's going to be a representation of all the combination of two goods that an economy can get given the limited resources that that economy has. So here we have an example of that. We have W for wine and C for cheese. We have an economy that is able just producing these two goods. The thing is, labor is the only production factor, and it's an amount of labor. We just have a limited number of workers. So that means if we, given this graph, if we just want to produce wine, the maximum amount of wine when we are using all the labor that we have is going to be this. Just keep in mind, this is a graph, so this is a 0, 0 point. When we are going from here to here, it's like getting higher value. And from here to here is also higher value, in this case for cheese, and here for wine. So this is like the maximum amount of wine when we are using all our labor, the whole labor that is in that economy. And here we have the opposite case when we are just producing cheese. Among these 2 points we have many other possibilities with different combination of cheese and wine. The thing is, if I want to produce, if I'm here, for instance, this is the production that I'm already doing. I'm going to mention the number, can be 10 versus 5. The thing is, if I want to produce more wine, a higher amount of wine, like 11, by sure I'm going to produce less cheese, because for the production of that extra wine I need more labor, and that means it's labor that I have to take from the other sector, given the fact that always in this PPF I'm using my whole amount of labor. So the PPF is going to gather all the possible combination of production of two goods when we are using our resources, all of them. So here all our labor is there. So that's why if I want to produce more of one thing, it's going to have a cost, which one, the opportunity cost, that is the production that I'm not going to do in the other sector. Okay, so important things then. PPF, production possibility frontiers, is going to give me all the possible combination of two goods when I'm using my resources, the whole labor that I have. Any point like this one which is inside of the ppf, is going to be inefficient. Why? Because that means I can produce more. I'm here, but if I use all the labor that I have, I could produce more cheese or more wine or a combination of them, okay? So all the points that are inside is because they are not efficient. PPF is when we are using all our resources. So all that is inside is inefficient. And what about something from in a point like that? That is not possible. Okay, it's unfeasible. We can do it because here is when we are using all our resources. Okay, and that is the key of this PPF. Now we are going to talk about how this PPF is connected with the opportunity cost. We have observed already that if we are in a point like this and we want to produce more wine, it's going to mean that we are going to produce less cheese. So we are talking about the opportunity cost. What is going to be the opportunity cost? Oh, okay, we can see the opportunity cost in many ways. Well, actually two. We can see the opportunity cost of producing more wine or the opportunity cost of producing more cheese. But it doesn't matter because we know that if it's something like it's inverse. So if I know the opportunity cost of producing more wine, the inverse number is going to be the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit more of cheese. Okay? Opportunity cost, we are going to see that concept in per unit terms. I mean, we can do it, the opportunity cost for the number of units that we want to increase of wine, any number. But to make easier the analysis, we always are going to talk about in terms of what's going on if I produce 1 unit more of something. Okay, it can be wine or cheese. So what's going on if I increase the unit of wine, the production of wine? What about then with the production of cheese? Okay. The thing that we are going to observe is always a negative relation. So if I increase wine, I'm going to decrease the production of cheese. So the relationship is going to be negative, always. And something interesting. Let me show you one thing. Here we have wine, here we have cheese. What is the slope of this? The slope of this is going to be the slope of anything. Always we are going to do this, okay? To do the slope of that thing. We have two ways. One is going to be in continuous numbers, like using derivative, while the other is going to be using discrete numbers, okay? Derivative. I like more in derivative terms, nevertheless we are going to see both of them. I think in most of the cases it's going to be just with discrete numbers. But the derivative, the slope of this thing is going to be always the slope, the meaning of the slope, the thing that the slope is telling us is how it's going to change. The variable that is here, okay? Always the variable that is here. How it's going to change that variable when the other changes in 1 unit. Okay? In mathematical terms, in economics, we use this notation. But this is just notation, okay? It's not a division. It's notation. And the meaning of that notation is how it's going to change that variable when this increase in 1 unit. Okay? So, that means the thing that I said. How it's going to change this when this increase in 1 unit. And that is the opportunity cost, okay? So the slope of the PPF is the opportunity cost because it's going to tell me how it's going to change the production of wine when I increase in 1 unit the production of cheese, okay? And if I want to know the inverse, the opposite, I mean, how change the production of cheese when I increase in 1 unit wine is as simple as the inverse of this. So imagine that this is 2. So that means if I want to produce 1 unit, sorry, minus 2. If I want to increase in 1 unit the production of cheese, I have to reduce, is minus here, I have to reduce the production of wine in 2 units, okay? That is the slope, and that is the meaning of the slope. So the opportunity cost is 2. When we are talking about opportunity cost, just forget about the minus, because a cost always is something negative. So when you are saying cost, you don't need to introduce the minus, okay? So the opportunity cost is 2 of 1 unit of cheese. Where is going to be just the opposite, the inverse. This is just the inverse. So the inverse of a number is 1 over that number. In this case is 2, so the inverse of 2 is 0.5. With the negative, that is for the slope, okay? The slope is with the negative signs, the opportunity cost set negative, so you don't need to introduce that minus. It's just the positive value, okay? So this means if you want to produce 1 unit more of cheese, you have to reduce the production of wine in 2 units. And vice versa, if you want to produce 1 unit more of wine, that means you have to reduce the production of cheese in half unit, okay? So it's really important, this one. The PPF is going to give me all the possible combination of production when I'm using all my resources. Here, labor. The slope of that PPF is going to give me the opportunity cost. So that's why it's really interesting observing the slope of the PPF. Now we are going to see a different example of PPFs. Here is constant, the slope. You can see that always is the same slope. Now we are going to see a different case. So here we have a different PPF, different production possibility frontier. In fact, here the slope is not constant, it's changed. And this is really important in the fact that you need to know how to observe the slope, okay? Because the slope is the opportunity cost, as I told you. The slope is how it's going to change. In this case, wine, when you change cheese. But also you can get inverse if you just change the values, okay? How is this then, this opportunity cost? Well, we need numbers or a function to do the derivative, something, okay? But so far with the just visual analysis is going to be okay, okay? So let's do it. How is the slope here? Just keep in mind that something like this is without slope, it's 0. And the opposite is going to be something like that, okay? So here we are observing something like close to 0, okay? Should be positive, or I mean not positive, negative of course, but it should be with a value higher than 1, okay? Just look in the value, not the sign, okay? But very small, so that means the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit more of cheese is really small in terms of wine. So that means if I want to produce 1 unit more of cheese when I'm here, it's going to mean a really small reduction of wine, okay? So let's take 2 points to do that analysis. This is 1 point, imagine that that is the starting point, but I want to produce 1 unit more of cheese, as I said. Something like that. So here is the initial production of wine, and this is the new, more or less, production of wine. So you can observe that producing 1 unit more of cheese is going to involve a reduction of wine lower than 1 unit. Of course, as I told you, that slope is almost 0, so the reduction of wine is going to be almost 0. What's going on over here? Well, over here is going to be something in between, but take a look at this stream, where the slope is higher. You see the slope is really small, here is a little bit higher, higher, and this is the higher probably in this graph, more or less over here. So let's take a point, starting point. So this is the starting point for wine, and this is for cheese. What's going on if I introduce, if I want to produce 1 unit more of cheese? Something similar to that. So do it at home, okay, like me. So here we can observe that if you want to produce 1 unit more of cheese now, the opportunity cost in terms of the production that you are not going to produce of wine now is higher, like the slope, because that is the slope, the opportunity cost. So that is something really important that you need to keep in mind all this course. The Ricardian model is based on the comparative advantage. Nevertheless, I want you to know also what is the absolute advantage, which is a theory that is before of the Ricardian model. This is even more easy or simple, and is coming from Adam Smith. The idea that is behind of this is that each economy is going to produce the thing in which each economy is the best. Okay, so here we have 2 examples of that. Okay, we have one economy and another economy, each of them with their production possibility frontier. Here I choose wine and cheese again. Okay, it doesn't matter the goods. The thing is, when this economy is producing wine, it is able to produce 50 units, while the other is just 35. And when it's producing just cheese, this is going to get 20, while this is 40. So easily you can observe that this economy is the best producing wine, while this economy is the best producing cheese. Okay? The thing that is behind is each economy is going to, in terms of technology, because we are in that context, in terms of technology, each economy is going to produce or going to specialize in the production of that good in which the technology that it has is the best. Okay? So this economy is really good with the technology that it has in producing wine, while the other is going to be cheese, and that's all. Okay? That is the conclusion, that each economy is going to produce that good. What about comparative advantage? We are going to have, if we use the comparative advantage concept that we don't know yet, we are going to get the same result. Okay, we are going to get that this economy is going to produce wine, while this is going to produce cheese. With this, I want to emphasize the idea that the 2 terms or 2 concepts, comparative and absolute advantage, they are not going once against the other. Okay, in fact, the thing that we are going to observe is this theory of this advantage is not enough when we are talking about international trade, and we need the comparative advantage. Okay, what is the problem of this? The problem of this is sometimes we can observe something like, let me show you something. Instead of being here, let's put, this was 40, let's put something like this, 55. Okay? In this case, if we try to see if we are going to observe international trade given the absolute advantage, the answer is no. We don't have trade. Why? Because this economy is the best producing wine, and this economy is also the best producing cheese. So, under the absolute advantage, the conclusion is we are not going to have international trade. But if we go to the reality, to the real life, we are going to observe international trade even in this case. What thing do we need? The comparative advantage. So the comparative advantage is coming to resolve these scenarios in which absolute advantage doesn't give us an answer, a real answer, while comparative advantage, even in a case of this, in which one economy is the best doing everything, then in the real life we are going to observe international trade, and the comparative advantage is going to explain us that international trade. It's going to tell us why we are observing international trade. So, absolute advantage and comparative advantage, they are not going once against the other. If we have an answer using the absolute advantage, we are going to have the same answer using comparative advantage. The problem is we don't have an answer always when we are using absolute advantage, like this case. That's why we need the comparative advantage that is going to give us always an answer. So it's going to tell us who is going to trade with who and in which goods. Even in a case with this, where one economy is the best doing both things, both goods, okay? So that's why the absolute advantage is okay, but it's not enough. So to identify an absolute advantage, the thing that we have to look is for the maximum and compare between one economy and the other economy, because the maximum is an easy way of observing how is the technology of each economy. When we just use our technology in wine, we can observe in one economy how is the production and in the other economy how is the production. So it's really easy to observe the absolute advantage, okay? Because it's just observing the maximum amount that you can produce for each good, okay, for each sector and in each economy, and compare. But what about comparative advantage? How is the way of observing the comparative advantage? To observe in which good you have a comparative advantage, the thing that you need to see is not just when is the production, when you just focus in the production of one good, just wine, just cheese, just wine, and cheese. Instead of that, is how good you are in terms of opportunity cost. So that means in which industry you have a lower opportunity cost. Remember, opportunity cost is the cost of producing 1 unit more of something. So that means if you produce 1 unit more of wine, how many units of cheese you are not going to produce? As lower is the opportunity cost, means that you are better in producing that. Because that means I can increase a little bit more the production of wine, for instance, I don't know here, but the meaning is that I'm able to produce a little bit more of wine with a smaller cost of cheese than the other economy. So I need to compare two things. Of course, the comparison between countries, like in the absolute advantage, 50 versus 35, that was in absolute terms, but the comparative advantage is not just looking to the two economies, but also how good you are producing something in terms of the opportunity cost, so in terms of the reduction of the production of the other things. So, a lower opportunity cost means that if I want to produce more, for instance, wine, I have to give up a small amount in terms of cheese, in the production of cheese. While the other economy, let's say that it has a higher opportunity cost. The slope is higher, let's say. Well, this is not the case. Here we are observing a lower slope here, higher slope here. So, without any number, without making any number, we know that the slope here is smaller than here, so the opportunity cost of produce 1 unit of wine is lower here than here, right? So that means this economy, for any point, because the slope is constant, for any point, if I want to produce 1 unit more of wine, it's going to mean a lower opportunity cost, if I want to, of cheese. If I want to produce 1 unit more of cheese, because cheese is here, okay, and wine is here. If I want to produce 1 unit more of cheese, I'm going to give up the production of wine in a smaller amount than here. Let's do it more or less. It's not going to be perfect. So, we should have here a higher reduction of wine. So, it's better producing more cheese here than here. The comparative advantage in the case of cheese is going to be in this economy, while the opportunity advantage in terms of wine is going to be in the other economy, because it's just the inverse, okay, the inverse of the slope. And that is the meaning, okay? So to observe a comparative advantage, we need to look for the opportunity cost. And that economy with a lower opportunity cost is the one that is going to have a comparative advantage, because it's going to be able to produce more of that thing with a lower cost in terms of giving up the production of the other good. Now we are going to use some numbers, okay? Here we have two cases. I use wine and cheese. I think you have like large jet, small jet. I don't care, okay? Now the thing that we are going to do is obtaining the opportunity cost, I mean the slope. We don't have any mathematical function, so that means I'm not able to do the slope using a derivative as I would like. But instead of that, I have 2 points, 2 specific points. With 2 points, if you remember from previous courses, with 2 points we are able to get the slope of any function when this is a straight line like this, okay? Otherwise it's impossible, we need a function. So, but with these 2 points we can get the slope here and here. So, we are going to get the opportunity cost of producing more cheese, 1 unit more of cheese. That is the slope, okay? The slope always is the opportunity cost of produce 1 unit of this variable. Here is cheese. How can we get that? Because we want the opportunity cost, okay? Instead of just the slope, we want the opportunity cost, okay? So we are going to make the math without a negative sign. So in absolute terms, that's why I'm going to use that, okay? To get the opportunity cost, which is the slope. The idea is, okay, the slope always is how change this when this changes in 1 unit. We have 2 points, point A, for instance, and point B. The same thing here, A and B, okay? So, I want to know how change this variable per unit of this one. Per unit, that's why I'm going to need the division, to know per unit. I just have 2 points, so the only thing that I can do is observing how change this from point A to point B. Well, in the point A it was 30, and in the point B the value of that wine variable is 0. I want to know the effect of 1 unit more of cheese. From A to B I have like from 0 to 40 units, okay? But at least it's an increase, so that's why I'm going from A to B, okay? I'm going from the point A to the point B. The point A, the production of wine is 30, the production of cheese is 0. In the point B, the production of wine is 0, while the production of cheese is 40. Okay, that's important. You need to understand everything, and that's also, okay? So, what is the increase of wine when I'm coming from A to B? Well, final value is 40, always is final value minus initial value, okay? In the way that if the result is positive, it's because you are increasing. If the result is negative, it's because you are decreasing, or your variable is decreasing, better say. So, final value of the W good wine, final value is 0, right? Wine here is 0. Wine is in the vertical, and here this point is 0. So 0 minus starting point, it was 30. Because it's in absolute terms, it doesn't matter, okay? That's minus 30 is going to be positive. And now for the case of cheese, which is this one. Here it was 0, now it's 40, final value 40 minus initial 0, okay? 3 over 4 in absolute terms is going to be the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit more of cheese. How is that? Because here we have the change in the production of wine, okay? This is the change, the whole change. The production of wine was 30, now it's 0. That is the whole thing, the whole change. But that whole change is not per unit of cheese. It's given the increase of of 40 units of cheese. So if I make the division, I'm getting how the wine amount or the wine variable has changed per unit of cheese, of new production of cheese. So the same thing is going to be here. So the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit more of cheese is going to be, let me see, final value of wine, 0, minus initial value of wine, which is in the vertical, initially was 10, divided to final value of cheese, now is higher because I'm evaluating the increase of cheese. The starting point was 0 in the horizontal, this is 0, okay, in the horizontal 0. So 1/3. Okay. This was for cheese. We can do the same thing for wine, but instead of doing just the same thing, we can write that the opportunity cost for wine, okay, for wine, this is for cheese, it's going to be just the inverse value. So it's just giving the opposite place to these numbers. So here it's going to be the 4 because here is below, now it's over, I'm free. And here it's the same way. This was for cheese and this is for wine, okay? It's, well, 3/1 is just 3, okay? So we can observe that the opportunity cost of wine, for instance, in this economy is higher than this one. 3 is higher than 4/3. So that means the opportunity, the economy that has an opportunity, no, a comparative advantage. Let's talk about comparative advantage. The economy that has a comparative advantage in the production of wine is the one that has the lower opportunity cost. So this economy, okay, this economy is the one that has the lower opportunity cost of producing wine, so it has the comparative advantage in the production of wine, while the opposite is going to be here, okay? Which economy is the one that has the lower opportunity cost in the production of cheese? This economy. So this economy is the one that is going to produce cheese. It's the one that has a comparative advantage in the production of cheese. Given the fact the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit more of cheese here is smaller than in the other economy. Okay, so now we are able to see how is the way of getting the comparative advantage and then determine which economy in a context of international trade is going to specialize in its good. This is going to be for wine, while this economy is going to produce cheese. Here you have another example to see the comparative advantage. Okay, imagine in the Valentine's Day, United States, suppose that the whole demand of roses is like 10 millions, I think. And imagine that for the production of those 10 millions, the whole economy need to use all the resources that this economy has. So imagine that this economy is just able to produce roses versus computers. So if you want to satisfy this demand, all the resources, so all the labor has to go there. The problem of that is if this economy has that labor, so means that it's going to produce less computer. In fact, if the increase of roses is 10, so imagine that initially it was 0 because the other days the economy doesn't need roses. So the increase of roses as the maximum value is going to involve the reduction of the production of computer in this amount, okay? 100,000. What's going on with other economy? Imagine that we have the United States, but in this whole world also we have another economy that is Mexico. In this economy, if this economy starts to produce roses, in fact, if they get that amount, the same amount, it's going to involve also the reduction of the other possible good that you can produce, because we just can produce 2 goods. So we are simplifying it as maximum as possible the reality. That increase of production of roses in TEM is going to involve the reduction of computer. In this case is lower. You see, if this economy produces this amount of roses, it's going to produce 30,000 units of computer less, which is smaller than here. So the opportunity cost of producing roses in each economy is going to be different. In fact, we are going to observe that in Mexico is cheaper in terms of opportunity cost, because if this economy, instead of producing a computer, start to increase the production of roses, is going to reduce less the production of computer than United States. So the idea that is coming to our head is, okay, instead, if I'm United States, instead of producing roses that it has an opportunity cost really high, I'm going to buy the roses from Mexico. Because in that economy, the opportunity cost in terms of reduction of the production of computer is going to be lower. So I prefer to pay for these roses and produce this this computer. So we are going to see that in graph, okay? But the idea that is behind, and I want to show you, is in this case it's better for United States buying the roses and produce computer, because with the money that is going to get selling this computer, is able to pay by far those roses. And for the case of Mexico, they prefer also do that. Why? Because if they are producing roses, they are making money with this. And also they know that the computer in United States are going to be cheaper, because the technology that they have is not good enough. They are going to produce a small amount of computer because that technology is not really good, and that is going to involve higher prices here. So the main result that we are going to get, or we should expect to get, is that United States is going to buy roses from Mexico, while Mexico is going to buy computer from United States. But now we are going to see a graph of this case, okay, to show you how is the PPF and how we are going to get the slope of that PPF. That means the opportunity cost of a good in its economy. So here we have United States, and here we are going to have Mexico. So we are starting from the same point in terms of process, okay? But the difference is going to be in the production of computers. So here we have process, and here we have computers. In fact, this is the information that we already have. So now the thing that we are going to do is just the opportunity cost. We can do the opportunity cost of computers, or the opportunity cost of roses. It doesn't matter, because if you have one of them, the easy way of getting the other is just making the inverse of that number. So it's like changing the order of the numbers. So we are going to get the slope, okay? And then we are going to subtract the sign. So we are going to do the slope in absolute terms, so that means with those bars. We are going to do the slope, so the slope is the opportunity cost of, always is the opportunity cost of cheese. So what is the cost of producing 1 unit more, computers. Like in the previous example, it was cheese, computers, please come, computers, okay? Computers. So the opportunity cost of producing 1 computer more in terms of roses that you are not going to produce. How is the way of doing that? Because we don't have here a function, the only way is taking 2 points, given the fact that the line is a straight line, okay? So that's why it's possible. And we are going to take these 2 points, A and B, because I want to evaluate the effect of producing more computers. I'm going to go from A to B, because from A the production of computer is 0, while in the case of B is 100. So I'm increasing the production of computers. I'm going to evaluate the effect of that in terms of roses. I need to make the division, because here the increase of computer is not just 1 unit, instead of that is 100. with the division I'm going to get the opportunity cost per unit. That is the opportunity cost that we are going to use always, okay? Per unit. So, imagine that I make the mistakes of doing from A to B and I do the opposite. It doesn't matter because we are going to do everything in absolute terms, so the result is going to be the same. The important thing is what you are evaluating. Here, I want to see the effect of increase the voluminous computer, so roses has to be up, okay? So, it's how change, remember that is a slope, okay? How change this variable when this increase in 1 unit. That is the slope. As I told you, I'm going to do the slope. So, how roses change, this symbol is to indicate variation. How roses change when a computer changes. So, that's why I need 2 points to see variation. Always final value minus initial value, okay? Final value minus initial value. As I said previously, if you make the mistake of putting, instead of final value minus initial, just the opposite, initial minus final, it doesn't matter because everything is in absolute terms. But it's important what is over and behind, okay, of the line. But because here is a division. When we are doing a derivative, we don't do the division, okay? But when we are using 2 points, we need to use the division, okay? So, final value of roses from A to B, the final value of roses, which is in the vertical, is 0, okay? 0. Initial value, roses, vertical, 10. Divided, that was the variation of roses, but I want to know the variation per unit of new computer. But final value of computer was here, okay, here computer in the horizontal, 100. Initial value here, this point, the horizontal is 0. So that is the opportunity cost of produce 1 computer more. So it's in terms of roses that you are not going to produce. If I want to do the opposite, the opportunity cost of roses, I can do the same analysis, but when you have roses, introduce computers, and vice versa. Or even easier, just make the inverse of this number. So that means 1 over this number. And this is going to be the opportunity cost of roses. If you want to produce 1 rose more, that means you have to reduce 10 units of computer. That was for United States, now for Mexico. This is the information that we have. Here there is a 10, here there is a 30. Opportunity cost, final value, as we said, of roses, 0. Initial value of roses, 10. Divided by, now computer, final value 30, initial value 0, okay? Here we don't have computer, because computer is in the horizontal and here is 0, okay? That's why we have this value. So this is the opportunity cost of produce 1 unit more of computer. If we want to know the opportunity cost of roses, it's just the inverse value. So you can change this or just make the inverse of this. Just remember that any number, in fact, is like divided by 1. So it's like changes the order, as I said. So now we can compare. With 1 good is enough, okay? If we make the comparison of the opportunity cost of roses, we don't need to make the comparison with the other goods. So let's take a look, for instance, the opportunity cost of computer, here is this value, the opportunity cost of computer, here is this value, in which case is lower here. So the opportunity case of producing computer in United States is smaller than in Mexico. That means that that economy has a comparative advantage in the production of computers. So we are going to observe just the opposite in the case of roses. Here the opportunity cost of produce 1 rose is like than computer a lot. Well, here is just free computer. So for this economy is really expensive in opportunity terms producing process, because it's going to mean a high reduction of computer. As we said, the thing that we are going to observe is that this economy is going to produce more computer, while this economy is going to specialize in the production of process, and then they are going to trade between each other. So far we've been talking about the comparative advantage, but all the time we've been talking about possibility. We don't really know how it's going to be the final result of this. We need more things, and that is the Ricardian model, okay? The Ricardian model, we are going to have a framework, a simplified economy, a simplified world, but with more variable than just the opportunity cost, okay? Than just the comparative advantage. We need a demand, and then with the demand, also we need how people decided in which sector is going to work. Here we have labor, and labor can be in any of the two sectors. Why labor is going to go from one sector to the other? So the decision is not just the decision that economy as a whole take, because an economy is people, okay, at the end of the day. So we need a framework where those decisions are considered. So how people change from one sector to another sector, where is the demand of at least something related to the demand. So that's why we are going to introduce in different courses and other concepts. This is just about possibility. The main idea is going to work. The thing that the economy that has a comparative advantage in something, in the production of something, is going to produce that, by sure. But we need more information to have that, the whole framework, the whole idea, and then to see the result, okay? And that is going to be the Ricardian model. So far we just observed one part of that model with that possible result, but we need more. And that is the thing that we are going to do right now.